Imagine standing at the very peak of a mountain you spent your entire life climbing. You can see everything from up there. The valleys you crossed, the storms you survived, the nights you trained alone when no one was watching. You are standing at the top, and the whole world is below you. Now imagine that in one single second, one brutal, merciless second, the ground disappears beneath your feet. That is what happened to Tomari Davis Ford on the night of June 11, 2026, in Eugene, Oregon. She did not just lose a race. She did not just have a bad day. She pulled up on the track in the middle of the biggest meet of her college career, and she was wheeled off the same ground where, just 1 year ago, she had crowned herself the best in the nation. A wheelchair. For a woman who had spent years making every other sprinter on the planet look slow. Let that image sit with you for a moment, because it tells you everything you need to know about how cruel and how beautiful this sport truly is. But before we get to that moment, before we talk about the fall, you need to understand exactly who Tomari Davis Ford is. Because if you don't know her story, you can't feel the full weight of what happened that Thursday night. And this story deserves to be felt all the way through. Tomari Davis Ford grew up in Hampton, Virginia. She later moved to Fayetteville, North Carolina. She is 21 years old. She runs for the South Carolina Gamecocks. And from the very first moment she stepped onto a college track, it was obvious to anyone watching that they were seeing something rare. Something that does not come along every decade. She was not just fast. She was scary fast. The kind of fast that makes coaches blink twice and check the timing system, just to make sure the clock is not broken. As a freshman, she walked into the NCAA Indoor Championships and walked out as the 200-meter champion. A freshman, not a junior, not a senior who had spent years preparing for that stage. A freshman. Then as a sophomore, she came back to the outdoor championships and did it again. She crossed the line in 22.21 seconds and claimed the outdoor 200-meter title. 2 years of college. 2 NCAA titles. 1 in every single year of her career. That is not just impressive. That is historic. Winning a national title in college track is one of the hardest things an athlete can do. Doing it back-to-back in your first 2 years, while still growing into your body and your craft. That is the kind of thing people write textbooks about. And the numbers she produces are not just good for a college athlete. They are good by any measure, anywhere in the world. Her personal best in the 100 meters is 10.87 seconds. Let that sink in. Her personal best in the 200 meters is 21.98. That time, 21.98, is one of the fastest 200-meter times ever run by a woman still competing in college. Only a handful of women in the entire history of the sport have gone faster while still enrolled in school. She has earned 6 first-team All-American honors outdoors, 5 more indoors. She has won SEC titles. She has been named Regional Athlete of the Year 3 times over. She has put together a collection of accolades that most athletes spend a full decade building, and she has done it in 2 years. So when the 2026 NCAA Outdoor Championships arrived, when the track world gathered once more at Hayward Field on the University of Oregon campus in Eugene for what would be the 21st time the venue hosted this meet, every single eye was on her. NCAA.com had already pointed to her before the meet even started. They noted, in plain terms, that she had won an NCAA title in every year of her college career since she first appeared on the scene as a freshman in 2024. They wrote that another sub-22-second run could be all she needed to take the title again. Olympics.com called her one of the biggest stars in the women's sprints. She was not just a favorite. She was the story. She was the reason people were setting alarms, pulling up live streams, and leaning forward in their seats. And the meet itself was already electric before she even took the track. The 2026 championships ran from June 10th to June 13th. And from the opening gun, records were falling like dominoes. On the very first day of competition, Auburn's JaMeesia came out of the blocks in the men's 110-meter hurdles and ran 12.75 seconds. Stop. Read that again. 12.75 seconds. A brand new world record. The first men's world record to be set at the NCAA championships in 50 years. Not in 5 years. Not in 10 years. 50 years. Since 1976. And it happened right there in Eugene, on opening night, in front of a crowd that immediately understood they were watching something they would tell their grandchildren about. Then came the women's pole vault. Amanda Mall of Washington cleared 4.84 meters, a new collegiate record, breaking 4.83, the previous mark. And who held that previous mark? Her sister, Hannah Mall. One sister breaking the other sister's record at the national championships. The drama in that building was almost impossible to contain. Then Iowa State's Marceline Kirwa ran down the defending champion in the women's 10,000 meters, closing her final 400 meters in just 1 minute and 1.84 seconds to win in 31 minutes and 54.88 seconds. Upsets, world records, family rivalries, history being made on every single surface at Hayward Field. The stage could not have been set any higher for what was supposed to be Tomari Davis Ford's coronation. Thursday, June 11th, was when the women took over the meet, and Ford had a full day ahead of her. She was entered in 3 events. 3 chances to remind the world exactly who she was. First came the 100-meter semifinal. She stepped into the blocks. She came off the line clean. She crossed in 11.02 seconds. Not her best, but more than enough. 7th overall in the semifinal, which is all she needed to punch her ticket to Saturday's final. 1 event down. 1 box checked. Then came the 4x100-meter relay semifinal. She ran alongside her South Carolina teammates, Alexis Brown, Sierra James, and Kaamora Lee Williams. Together, they clocked 42.44 seconds. 4th overall. That was good for an automatic qualifier into Saturday's relay final. 2 events down. 2 boxes checked. 2 finals secured. Everything was going perfectly. Then came the 200-meter semifinal. This was her race. This was the event that had made her name. This was the event where, 1 year earlier on this very same track, she had posted one of the fastest times in college history. This was supposed to be the moment where she turned to the rest of the field and reminded them, calmly and completely, that there was a distance between her and everyone else, and that distance was not closing anytime soon. The crowd knew it. Her competitors knew it. She knew it. And then it all went wrong. Mid-race, Ford pulled up. She did not slow down because she was tired. She did not ease off because she lost focus. She pulled up because her body stopped cooperating. She did not cross the finish line. Instead, 3 letters appeared next to her name on the official results sheet. DNF. Did not finish. According to FlowTrack, she was taken off the track in a wheelchair. The same Hayward Field that had watched her become a champion 12 months ago now watched her leave the track unable to walk under her own power. Think about the weight of that image. A 21-year-old who had just last year run 21.98 seconds, one of the fastest times in college history, sitting in a wheelchair, leaving the stadium she had conquered, with no title to defend and no race to return to. Her teammate Alexis Brown was the only South Carolina athlete to advance out of that 200-meter semifinal. Brown ran 22.58 seconds and grabbed the final at-large qualifying spot for Saturday's race. But Ford's night in the 200 meters was over. The defense of her title was done. Here is what makes the moment even harder to sit with. 1 year ago at this exact meet, Ford was a machine. She did not just compete in 1 or 2 events and survive. She ran 4 full events over the course of the entire weekend. The 100 meters, the 200 meters, the 4x100 relay. And then she came back to anchor the South Carolina 4x400-meter relay in a heat, just because she could. For races, 0 problems. She left Eugene in June of 2025 healthy, champion, and already building toward what everyone assumed would be an even bigger 2026. Now, 1 year later, she could not finish 3 events before her body broke down on the track. That is the part about athletics that no highlight reel ever truly prepares you for. It is not just about how good you are. It is not just about your times, your titles, or the depth of your talent. The sport does not care about your personal best when you are in the middle of a race and something tears or snaps or gives out. The sport does not pause for credentials. It just keeps moving. And you either keep moving with it or you don't. The rest of the South Carolina women still had a strong evening, which is worth saying because their story did not end with Ford's injury. The Gamecocks advanced 5 entries into Saturday's finals. 2 second-team All-American honors went to athletes making their very first NCAA appearance. Jasmine Hamilton finished 13th in the 100-meter hurdles in 12.94 seconds and earned her first ever college All-American nod. Tristan Harris landed at 6.43 meters in the long jump, good for 10th place, and claimed the same honor. Salma El Badra qualified in the 1500 meters with a time of 4 minutes and 9.70 seconds. And then there was Akala Garrett, who did not just qualify for the 400-meter hurdles final. She ran the fastest time of any athlete in the entire semifinal, 54.49 seconds. Top seed heading into the final. Even without Ford at full strength, South Carolina was still standing, still fighting, and still positioned to make Saturday matter. But the question that hung over everything going into the final day of the meet was simple and unavoidable. Would Ford be able to run? She had already qualified for 2 events that were still on the schedule. The 100-meter final. The 4x100-meter relay final. The 100-meter final would test her as an individual. The relay would test the team. And if she could somehow get her body right, if the medical staff could give her any kind of news that let her take the blocks one more time, she would walk into both races as a legitimate threat to win. Because even injured, even in question, this is Tomari Davis Ford we are talking about. This is a woman who already owns one of the fastest 200-meter times in college history and who has won every time it mattered most. You do not write her off. You do not assume she cannot compete until you see for yourself that she cannot. But if she could not run, then South Carolina would lose not just an athlete. They would lose the kind of presence that changes how every other team in a relay prepares. They would lose the kind of name that makes the 100-meter start list feel different just because it is on there. And track and field would lose, at least for this weekend, one of the most genuinely exciting young sprinters on the planet. And that is what makes this so much bigger than one meet. Because Tomari Davis Ford is not just a college story. She is a professional story in the making. Her name has been appearing on Olympic radar for months. The 2027 World Championships in Beijing are on the horizon. The 2028 Olympic Games in Los Angeles are coming, and they are coming fast. For a 21-year-old who can run 21.98 in the 200 and 10.87 in the 100, the ceiling is not just high. The ceiling is open sky. She is the kind of athlete that a generation of sprint fans builds its identity around. The kind of name that fills stadiums and sells seats and makes young girls in Hampton, Virginia pull on their sneakers and start running. A serious injury at this point in her career, at 21 years old, in the summer before her junior year, does not just cost her a title or a season. It can reshape everything. It can change timelines. It can steal months that an athlete can never get back. The question of whether she comes back at full strength, whether she lines up in Eugene or Beijing or Los Angeles, and gives the world what she has always been capable of giving, that question does not get answered tonight. That question gets answered over the coming weeks and months, in training rooms and rehabilitation sessions, and early mornings on practice tracks when nobody is watching. What we know right now is this. She came back to Hayward Field as a champion. She came back as the one everyone was circling on their bracket. She came back to a stadium that had already given her the best moment of her college life. And she left that same stadium in a wheelchair, with her title gone and her body in question, while the rest of the meet continued around her. 1 year, 1 stadium, 1 woman, 2 completely different endings. This is why track and field breaks your heart. And this is also why, if you are paying attention, you never look away. Because the same sport that gives you a world record on opening night can wheel your favorite athlete off the track 4 days later. The same ground that holds your greatest triumph is always just one bad step away from holding your greatest heartbreak. Tomari Davis Ford is 21 years old. She is one of the fastest women in college track history. She has already won titles that most athletes never see in a career. And whatever comes next, whether she races on Saturday or not, whether she heals quickly or slowly, whether 2026 ends with another title or with a long road back, none of that changes what she has already shown the world. She came. She ran. She made us believe in something extraordinary. And one day, sooner than you might think, she is going to come back and make us believe all over again.